students, your topic for today is collection of revenue. So collection of revenue, section 224 to 257 is discussing about collection of revenue. Section 224 is talking about the revenue of first charge on land and its procedure produce. So the revenue or rent assessed on every estate or holding shall be the first charge thereon on the rents, profits or produce thereof. So the rent, profits and produce of such estate or holding shall not be applied in satisfaction of a decree or order of any civil or revenue court until all areas of the revenue or rent due in respect of thereof have been paid. Section 225, responsibility for revenue. So all the holders and co-sharers of an estate are jointly and severally responsible to the state government for the rent for the time being payable therefore. So this is talking about the responsibilities of revenue, all the tenants and co-tenants, all the persons coming into possession. So all of these are jointly and severally responsible to the state government. Section 226, rules as to payment of arrears and defaulters. So what all rules are to be given for the defaulters who are not paying the arrears. Then section 227 is talking about the certified account to be evidence as to arrears. So the statement of account certified by the tehsildar for the purpose of the chapter be conclusive evidence of the existence of the error of or of its amount and of person who is a defaulter. Now, section 228, process for recovery of errors. So, an error of revenue or rent may be recovered by one or more of the following processes. So, this is talking about the processes. Then, section 229 is talking about the writ of demand and citation to appear. So, when an error of revenue or rent becomes due, a writ of demand calling on the defaulter to pay the amount within a time therein stated or a citation or to appear on date therein mentioned may issue. Then section 229 is talking about the power to grant installments. Then section 230 is talking about the attachment and sale of movable properties. So the collector can attach and sell the movable properties of the defaulter. Then section 231 is talking about the attachment of the land. So the collector may, in addition to or instead of any of the other processes here in before specified, can attach and take under his own management any specified area, share, patti or estate in respect of which an error is due. Section 222 is talking about the powers and obligations of the manager, whatever the powers and obligation are of the manager, management, and the collector is bound by any engagement which at the time of attachment existed between the defaulter and the tenant. Then section 233 is talking about the proclamation of attachment. So the collector attaches any land under section 231, has to issue a proclamation. Section 234 is talking about the transfer of defaulters share. So when these defaulters shares are transferred. Then section 235 is talking about the sale of the defaulter specific area, patti or estate. So 234 is about the transfer and 235 is about the sale. And section 236 is talking about the land to be sold free of encumbrances. So the land sold under the last preceding section, it should be free of all the encumbrances and all the contracts that are previously made by any person other than the purchaser. Then section 237 is talking about the powers to proceed against interest of defaulter in property other than that in respect of which default is made. Then proclamation of sale 238 is talking about that such sale of any land or any other immovable property that should also be proclaimed if it is done in under section 235 or 237. and the collector is supposed to issue such proclamation, and the copy of such proclamation should be served to the defaulter as well. Then section 239 is talking about the sale, when and by whom to be made. So every sale under this chapter will be made either by the collector in person or by the assistant collector that is specifically appointed for this behalf, and no such sale shall take place on a Sunday or other authorized holiday, and or until after the expiration of at least 30 days from the date on which the proclamation was issued, and the collector has to from time to time postpone the sale. Then section 240 is talking about the prohibition to bid for for an acquired property that is sold. Then section 241 is about the when sale may be stayed, the stay is there on the sale. Then section 242 is talking about the deposit by the purchaser, resale in default of deposit. So uh, this is when the person declared to be the purchaser shall be required to deposit immediately 25% of the amount of his bid, and in default of such deposit, the land or other immovable property will be again put up and sold, and such person shall be liable for the expenses attending the first sale and any deficiency of price which may occur on the resale, which may be recovered from him by the collector. Then section 243 is talking about the purchase money when to be paid. So the full amount of the purchase money shall be paid by the purchaser at the collector's office or before the 15th day from the date of sale. And if the purchase money is not so paid, then the deposit after the expenses of the sale have been defrayed therefrom may be forfeited to the government, and the property shall be resold, and the defaulting purchaser will be forfeit for all the claims to the property or to any part thereof. Section 244 is talking about the liability of the purchaser for the loss by resale. So if the proceeds of sale which is eventually made are less than the price bid by such defaulting purchaser, then the difference will be recoverable from him. Section 245 is talking about the proclamation for resale. So the proclamation for resale is to be made. This is what section 245 is talking about. Section 246 is the application to set aside sale on deposit of error. So if the deposit of error is if the errors are deposit, then the application to set aside sale is produced. So any person whose land or other immovable property has been sold under this act, it can at any time within 30 days from the date of sale apply to have the sale set aside on his the if he is depositing in the collector's office the payment to the purchaser a sum equal to 5% of the purchase money, or for payment on account of the error the amount specified in the proclamation of sale or the cost of the sale. Then section 247 is talking about the application to set aside the sale for irregularity. Then section 248 talks about the order conforming or setting aside sale. Section 249 is for the bar of claims founded on irregularity of mistakes. Section 250 is for the refund of purchase money when the sale is set aside. Section 251 is for the purchaser to be put in possession. So this is about giving the certificate of purchase. Then section 252 is talking about the application of proceeds of sale. Then section 253 is for the liability of purchaser for revenue or rent. Then section 254 is for the preemption by the co-sharers. Section 256 is for the recovery of miscellaneous revenue and other money. Section 257 is talking about the recovery of money from the surety. So every person who may have become a surety under any of the provisions of this act or under any enactments or any grant, lease, or contract where under the sum secured is recoverable from the principal as an error of the revenue, shall, on failure to pay the amount of or any portion thereof which he may have become liable to pay under the terms of his security bond, will be liable to be proceeded against as if such amount of portion were in error of the revenue. Now, section 257A is talking about the application for recovery of money referred to in section 256 and 257. So, what application is there is if any officer or authority to whom any sum of money referred to in subsection in section 256 or section 257 is due and payable, then it shall make to the collector an application in writing in the prescribed form containing this following particulars, like the officer authority to whom the sum is due and payable, the sum due and the nature, the sum due, the period if any for which it is due, the date on which the first became payable, the process by which the sum may be recovered, where possible the property against which the process may be executed, then such other particulars as may be prescribed by the state government, provided that no such application shall be necessary in cases in which, according to the law under which such sum of money is due and payable, a certificate of statement of account or other document specifying as nearly as may be aforesaid particulars is required to be sent and has been sent to the collector. Then section 257B, payment under protest and further remedy. So if proceedings are taken under this chapter against any person for the recovery of any sum of money that is referred to in section 256 or 257, then such person may at any time before any property attached in such proceeding is knocked down at a sale thereof and may pay the amount claimed and at same time deliver a protest signed by himself or by his author agent to the revenue officer taking such proceedings. When any amount is paid under protest subsection 1, such amount along with the protest shall be forwarded to the officer or authority at whose instance proceedings were so started. Subject to the provisions that are contained in subsection 4, the person making a payment under protest in accordance with subsection 1 shall have the right to institute a suit for the recovery of the whole or part of the sum so paid under protest. Then no suit under subsection 3 will be lie or instituted if any law under which the sum of money paid under the protest is due provides a remedy whether by way of suit, appeal, application or other proceedings to the person for whom such sum was recovered. No appeal or reference will lie from an order of recover revenue officer past proceeding taken under this chapter for the recovery of sum of money referred to in section 256 and 257. That's all. Thank you.